Non-Americans who have been to the US, what is the weirdest thing about America that Americans don't realize is weird? I went to SeaWorld with my mum when I was in my mid-teens. Halfway through the show, the performer, not the whale, asked everybody in the military to stand up and the whole crowd gave them a round of applause. They sat back down and the show continued as if nothing had happened. Couldn't imagine anything similar happening back in Blighty. Edit, this was at SeaWorld, Orlando, not San Diego. Roughly 2003/4. Now that Thanksgiving and Christmas is over, the weirdest thing is that Americans will ask what you are doing for Thanksgiving. Are you going to your family etc. When you say no, they invite you to their home. I was a student, my family was thousands of miles away, and I'm happy that the local Cracker Barrel is open and looking forward to a meal there. My professor did that. Invited me to his home. I had a good time, but it was strange. I'm meeting his uncles and aunts. And one little girl threw a tantrum, I had to take her to calm her down etc. It was weird. But also wonderful. In my country things like this would never happen. You don't bring a stranger to a family event. But I'm thankful things like this happen here. American that just traveled overseas. I went to a great bookstore in Edinburgh and the cashier asked if I wanted to sign up for a rewards membership. This led to a conversation about how their CEO or something just took over Barnes & Noble in the States. I stated the closest B&N to me is an hour away, and the other cashier jumped in, saying how easy it is to forget how far apart things are in the States. He was just kind of baffled and said it often blows his mind. I moved 13 hours away from my hometown and I still managed to be in the same country, which seems like a foreign concept for most Europeans. When, in reality, I could have moved even further away and still been in the US. Everything in America is huge. I don't just mean the people or portion sizes, because we all know about that, but the roads, the buildings, the ceilings, the space between everything. America is gigantic. It just feels larger than it does here. I'm Australian but I've been to Asia and size-wise it's similar to Australia, and I've seen Europeans say the same about America. Everything is bigger. Ranch, it is somehow both delicious and revolting. And changes which with every mouthful. I'm not sure if they find it weird or not, but as a Canadian who has been to a few states, gambling at gas stations in Montana. So damn weird. Edit, so I'm talking about slot/poker machines and sometimes a poker table or two in regular gas stations. Not just truck stops, not on native land. Find a street corner with some gas stations on it in Missoula, and odds are at least one of them has a mini casino inside. Americans are super friendly to the point that I, Australian, thought it was sarcasm or fake. Free refills. Went to a restaurant with my dad, both German, and all of a sudden the waiter took away my drink with another perfectly good sip in it and I must have looked pretty shocked. It was only then when my dad explained to me that you guys have free refills. That there are a lot of squirrels. For me as British bloke who only travelled for 6 weeks in the US, your public transport is largely poor but everything is built for cars and your cars are big. You advertise not businesses but personalities a lot. So it's not that KGH estate agents will well your property but Mary Houghton will personally sell your house, with a big picture of her face. Random people will talk to you. I'm a Londoner so it is different up north in the UK, but especially when I got to the southern states people were so happy to talk to random strangers. You guys actually sit at the bar in bars. When we go to a pub/bar, we'll go with friends and rarely interact outside of that group really. You guys jump up at that bar and just start chatting. Where homelessness is visible it's bloody awful. San Francisco was horrible for this. Me and my, now, wife ended up making a load of extra spag bowl to give to the homeless people outside our hostel because it was shocking to us. If I think of any more I'll add them, but it's Christmas Day, and I should probably talk to my family. How far apart everything is and how little is within walking distance. Location dependent, but I moved to a suburb in the Midwest as a kid and everything was so far away. Without access to a car and without reliable public transportation, it was pretty much impossible to get to a friend's house, unless they lived on your street or something, or go anywhere fun as a kid without relying on parents for a ride. Maybe things are different now with Uber and whatnot, but back then it felt pretty isolating. In Germany, how are you? Is an actual question, and you generally only ask it if you know the other person. It was super hard to explain to my mum that the answer is always fine, thank you, and that cashiers don't really care about how you actually feel, when we visited the US in '08. Tax. I find it annoying how in America tax is added after you check at the cashier. In Australia tax is included in the price, e.g. if the price says $6 you pay $6. But in America if it costs $6 it's actually $6.07 or something. I don't know, I just have found it a nuisance. When we were flying between cities, I found it weird to look out of the side of the plane and see towns mid-flight. In Australia, once you leave the city's airspace the landscape is completely barren until you arrive at your destination. I don't understand this one either. I grew up with a mother who would not allow shoes on in the house under any circumstances. It feels weird for me to go to someone's house and keep my shoes on. As weird as it sounds, the level of customer service is amazing. Okay, there are horror stories, we've all had bad experiences, and some companies are famous for having grumpy CSRs, but in general, damn. Everyone comes across really cheery and almost genuinely willing to help you. But as I'm not used to it, I'm like, no thanks, I don't really need/want anyone stood with me in the hardware store to hold my hand through the perilous world of picking up a box of screws. I'm fairly sure that's down to the tipping culture and the labor laws, that mean you can be fired at a moment's notice. The fact that nobody walks any significant distance ever for any reason. A while ago I was on holiday in New England and did a lot of wandering about for pleasure. Coming from a country which is at least 70% rambling footpaths, I thought that it might be fairly similar in rural America. Nope. I was forced to walk on minor to fairly large roads almost all the time. I had people call out to me from their gardens to ask where I was headed and reply with incredulity when I told them it was about 10 miles away. I had a lovely old woman almost hold me hostage and force me to let her give me a lift to my destination, because she couldn't understand that I genuinely preferred to walk, and I wasn't trying to get to help from my crashed car or something. I had a really nice policeman pull up in his car next to me and ask me where I was headed, if I was lost, if he could give me a lift. He laughed at me in a "these foreigners are crazy" sort of way, when I said I was alright. I didn't quite expect to attract that much attention just by wandering about by foot. For all that, though, it was genuinely one of the nicest holidays I've ever taken myself off on, and almost all of the attention was pleasant and helpful. You did good, America, you weird place.